So why do wolves howl? So we're out here right now with our two red wolves. We have a male and a female, which is a breeding pair. But the biggest question is, why do wolves howl? Well, they howl the same reason that we talk. So they howl to communicate with each other. So they're going to howl when it comes to their territory, basically letting other wolves know that this is where they live. And they're also going to howl to communicate with each other, where everybody's at in the pack. And then they're also going to communicate even where their prey's at. So for example, if they end up killing something, to communicate with the other wolves in their pack, where their actual prey is at. They'll do different pitches of howling in order to say that these guys mate for life. So basically, once they find their bonded pair, they will howl to communicate with each other. So when they howl together, it's a sign of unison, that they are together, they've accepted each other. So it's just like us talking. Obviously the wolves can't talk, so their way of communicating is howling. So how do we take care of our red wolves? We actually take care of them a little bit differently than most of the other animals in the zoo. And the biggest reason is we follow U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guidelines, who actually own all red wolves, whether they're in the wild or they're in captivity in zoos. So pretty much it's a no contact situation. Whenever we go in the yard, they're never forced to shift in anywhere they don't want to be. They can go inside and outside. They have two opportunities here at Niabi Zoo. They have a den actually underneath where we're standing right now. And then they also have a den out in the yard. You can see they have a circle, and it's actually a tunnel den that's buried underground. So when we go into their yard to clean their yard, it's usually every couple days or so. We always have another keeper with us just for safety. So again, we do not force them to go anywhere they do not want to go. And we do feed them a kibble. I can show you this. So they pretty much get free choice of this kibble. They always have food every single day. We do measure it out. So this is called exotic canine kibble. It's especially formulated for canines in captivity, which means just in a zoo setting. So then we also have what's called a rat day. So rat days are usually Wednesdays. On days that they don't get rat, they do get raw meat. So we do toss the meat out into the yard, and they do come out to eat the meat, and that way we get a full visual on them every single day to make sure that they're healthy, their coat looks good, there's no limping, anything like that. They do get enrichment, but we are very specific with what kind of enrichment they get. The kind of enrichment they get is something that they're not going to run across in the wild, or human, I should say. It's not equivalent to anything that humans would have. For example, we will not give them perfume, because that would basically make them used to humans. The whole goal with red wolves is at any point they could be released back out into the wild, so we're very careful of what kind of enrichment they get. All right, so we have a couple questions we want to address today. One is, why are red wolves in danger? And why is it so important for red wolves to be in zoos? Well, first we're going to talk about why they're endangered, because that's one of the biggest reasons why it's so important for red wolves to be in zoos. So red wolves are endangered basically because of us. They're endangered because of habitat loss, where we have taken away their natural environment in the wild, but they're also endangered because of hunting. They are very similar to coyotes in their looks. So anywhere that there's an area that red wolves used to be found and coyotes were found in the same area, unfortunately, a lot of times red wolves would end up being shot as well. So ultimately, humans are the biggest reason why red wolves are endangered. And right now, there's only 9 to 10 red wolves left in the wild, which is very, very sad. So that brings me to the point of why it's so important that zoos have red wolves. So in the 1980s, there was about 14 red wolves left in the wild. Point Defiant Zoo in Washington actually captured all 14 of those red wolves, brought them into captivity, started a breeding program. And what that means is the offspring then were re-released back out into the wild. So basically a handful of years ago, they had the population in the wild back up to about 130 wolves, which is just crazy. And they were released into a protected area. Well, since then, that protected area no longer has the strict guidelines that it had. So unfortunately, hunting is allowed in that area and has caused the decrease in the population again. So it's very important that we have these species in zoos like ours here at Niabi, where we do have a breeding program, the more offspring that we can provide, hopefully to start another release program back in the wild to save this species. All right, so we want to touch a little bit on why wolves are so important. So here we are, we're trying to save this critically endangered species, and a lot of people ask, why are we wasting our time? Or they think that we're wasting our time. Well, we're not wasting our time. Wolves have a very important ecological role. So if you think about it, what do wolves eat in the wild? They eat things like birds, but they also eat things like small rodents, rabbits, they eat white-tailed deer. So there is that food chain. Remember how you talked about that in school? So wolves actually help keep the population of all of their prey species in line. For example, if white-tailed deer, if rabbits, any kind of small species, rodent that they eat, that eats vegetation, well, for some reason, if that population exploded, it's going to destroy the habitat around where the red wolves live. So there is a place in the ecological aspect of things for red wolves to be in. Think about this. Red wolves are a beautiful species for us that are native to the United States alone. So we should be proud that we have this species and want to make this species survive and flourish in their natural environment. So right now you're actually looking at Rojo. This is our new female. We just got her in this past couple months ago, and she's doing really well. So a lot of times when you come to the zoo, you will actually see our wolves out on display now. Like I said earlier, we don't force them to go anywhere they don't want to go, so they are able to go in their dens if they choose to. But Rojo likes to stay out and check everybody out. She's usually out pretty much all day long. You can find her sleeping in different hide areas, so you might have to look real close, but you should always be able to see her. So Rojo is 4 years old this year. And the male that we have, he tends to be a little bit more secretive. He likes to stay in his dens longer than she does. His name is Adea, and he's actually 6 years old this year. So we do have a breeding pair, so hopefully we'll have some exciting news come this spring.